don't matter what your name is, share your story. We'll be waiting, for the haters, whoa.
Welcome back, everyone, to For The Hayters podcast. Today, we're diving into a story that highlights the reality of parenting a medically complex child, the challenges, the sacrifices, and the unwavering strength it takes to be your child's biggest advocate. Our guest's daughter was diagnosed with infantile spasms, a rare and serious form of epilepsy, at just 9 months old. Since then, she has fought tirelessly to navigate the world of specialists, treatments, and therapies, all while balancing multiple jobs and doing most of it on her own as her husband travels for work. Her journey is one of resilience, intuition, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her child. This conversation is a powerful reminder that while parenting is full of beautiful moments, it can also be incredibly hard, and those struggles deserve to be talked about too. Let's get into it. Jordan, thank you for being here on For The Hayters. I would love if you could just start out by introducing yourself, sharing a little bit about you before you became a mom.
Yeah, so I grew up out in Oregon. I'm the oldest of 8 kids.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my mom had 3 sets of twins, and so it's me, twins, my brother. No, I see. There's so many I can't keep track. Me, twins, my brother, twins, and then I've got 2 half siblings, which I don't consider. I mean, they're my blood.
Yeah.
And then she actually has gone on to adopt 5 more. So there's 13 of us all together.
But she adopted 5 more?
Yes.
So there would be 15, or wouldn't there be more with their 2 half siblings too?
No, the 8 is including the 2.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. So busy household.
Mm-hmm.
And we're all 2 years apart, except for the 5 kids that have been adopted. The first one was adopted when pretty much when I moved out.
Mm-hmm.
And then the last 4 have been in the last few years. So.
And you're the oldest?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep, I'm 33 and goes on from there.
They all flow down. How old is the youngest?
I think she is 6.
Okay.
So
Lots of kids.
yes, lots of kids. So I grew up out in Oregon, and we lived just in a small town, and I was homeschooled from 8th grade on. Lots of people ask if we're Mormon. We are not. My mom's just very fertile. And I worked as a waitress, and that's how I met my husband, and he was out there working. So.
And you and your husband have been together for over a decade now, right?
Mm-hmm.
How did you guys you first met as a waitress? Was it always you knew he was the one?
Well, yeah. I mean, so I worked as a waitress, and I kind of rebelled when I turned 18. I knew everything. So I moved in with a friend, and she had known who he was, and we just kind of started hanging out. And we met in September of 2010 and started dating in December. And then by March, I had packed all my stuff and went and traveled with them. He works for the wind towers, and so he's traveled his whole career with that. He's been with them for 20 years, or in the wind tower industry for about 20 years. So I traveled with him for a while, and yeah.
Do you have, like, growing up, I'm just curious about your relationships with your siblings. Like, did you guys all have a pretty good relationship with each other? Were you all homeschooled together? Was everyone homeschooled?
Yeah, so I don't know. The twins that are underneath me, the one and I, we've always butted heads. It was kind of like those 2 and then me.
Yeah.
And then so we've always butted heads, but actually my daughter and her last child were born on the same day, 2 minutes apart.
Oh, wow.
And she went in for a scheduled C-section. Mine was not. And it just ended up happening that way. And that actually is what has brought us
Yeah.
closer together. So for the most part, yeah, we've always all gotten along. We've been pretty close. We're kind of scattered all over.
Mm.
There's 2 out in Oregon. There are 2 in Pennsylvania, and the rest are in Idaho.
Very scattered.
And I'm in Minnesota.
And when you and your husband met, was this, did you want to become a mom right away? Was, having children?
Yeah, I did. And he was 27, and I had just turned 19. So he's like, let's wait a little while. When we got married, I was 20.
Mhm.
And I'm glad that we did, because I got to travel with them for a little over 2 years. And then I stopped traveling because I've got raging ADHD. And so just sitting there in a camper in the
Mm.
town I don't know, like, I was kind of going nuts.
Yeah.
And so I stopped traveling, and then we started trying right after the pandemic, I feel like. And we were having trouble. And I had made the appointment to see a fertility specialist, and I was able to cancel it because we were able to get pregnant.
I feel like that happens often. I know a lot of people that, like, make their appointment, and then within the next couple weeks, they find out that
Yeah.
they're pregnant.
Yep.
What is that your husband travels a lot. What is that like, trying to navigate marriage with him traveling so often?
It's tough. I mean, it's definitely gotten a lot easier over the years, but we always just say, like, it's not ideal. We wish he could be home more, but for right now, it's just what we got to do, especially now with medical bills.
Yeah.
um
And
and
what is that traveling, like, schedule like?
so he's been with like 3 different companies over the 20 years, but right now it's been a little bit different with each company. Right now it's like 5 weeks on and 1 week home. But he usually takes R&R, that's what they call it, along with his week at home. So he's usually home about 2 weeks
So
at a
gone
time.
gone 5 weeks, home 2 weeks.
Mhm.
And that's what you've been doing that's what he's been doing for 10 years. You've been doing that for what, 6 years, 7 years since you decided to stop traveling with him?
Yeah, about almost 8 years.
Okay.
So, yeah. And in between that time that I wasn't traveling, I was always able to pick up and, like, go see him on a whim. Or there's a few times instead of him coming home, I would go see him for a week.
Mhm.
So, we've tried it all, and we had a camper for quite a while that he pulled around, and lived in that for a while. And then, yeah, so
And so what year is it that you got pregnant? 2021?
yes. Yep.
And how was the pregnancy, right? Like, was everything as
For the most
expected?
Yeah, for the most part, it was totally fine. The first trimester, I was sick all day, every day.
Mhm.
I want to say it kicked in around 9 weeks, and it was not just morning sickness. It was all day. There was nothing that made it better. She sucked the life out of me the first probably 10 weeks.
Mhm.
Um, I had always heard that lots of women will say that they wake up, one morning into their second trimester and it'll just be gone. And that's what happened. And from there, it was totally fine. There was no complications.
Mhm.
So it
And
was
so
good.
when does that switch, right? That I know that you go in, you give birth, uh,
Yeah.
and it wasn't right away that anything was noticeably wrong.
No, 9 months. She was 9 months old. I had taken her in. It was January 28th.
Mhm.
Um, and she had gotten the pneumococcal pneumonia vaccine. And I know it was that one because I was already doing a delayed schedule.
Mhm.
Because, I mean, as you'll find out, they, want to do 3 to 4 shots at a time. I'm not anti-vax at all, but I just think that's a lot for a little
Yeah, absolutely.
tiny
Yeah.
body. And so I was just stretching him out. And so she'd gotten that one that morning. And that night, she was just, you could just tell she wasn't feeling good. And that goes along with vaccines. They can get fevers, throw up, whatever. And so I was just snuggling her. And I remember I had set her on my bed. So I go to the bathroom quick and I come back and she just had this look that just didn't feel good. And next thing I know, she is puking all over my bed.
Mhm.
So I get that cleaned up and I am sitting there with her and she starts making this weird movement. And I I just kind of sat there and watched her for a minute and it was like she was twitching, like the startle reflex.
Mhm.
And she did it a couple times and I had ended up calling the like after hours line for the clinic and they said that's typical, like the throwing up, and kind of brushed off the movement that I was telling you about because they're like, well, is she following commands? Is she still breathing? All that stuff. And I said, well, yeah, she seems fine. It's just she's just doing this weird movement. And they said just to monitor her and continue on.
Mhm.
And over the next 2 weeks, it just kept happening. And I would point it out to my friends when we were with them and say, "You guys see this? Like, this is so weird. Like, she keeps doing it." And it was, sometimes it'd be a couple times a day. Sometimes I'd only see it once. And, um, you know, I, d- I don't fault them for this. But they would always be like, "Oh, she's fine. Don't worry. Like, you're overthinking.
Yeah.
And I mean, yeah, as a new mom, you're like, oh God, you just hiccuped funny, like,
Everything.
everything. Yeah. And so I'm like, yeah, okay. But something in my gut something didn't feel right.
Mhm.
And so I had set the appointment with the pediatrician and yeah, lo and behold.
Yeah, and when you go to the pediatrician and he tells you or she tells you, to go to the hospital immediately, what's going through your mind then?
Yeah. Yeah, because well, first of all, I was afraid that she wasn't going to do it in front of her because I had tried to get it on video, but it was like as soon as I get my phone up, she would stop.
Mm.
And so it was just hearsay.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, Lord, please just, I want the doctor to see what I'm talking about.
Mm.
And she did this within a minute of her walking in. She started doing it. And yeah, she just was like, you need to go to the hospital. This is a form of like a seizure. And I just started bawling because I'm like, what do we do? And she's
Yeah.
like, they're probably going to admit you, but they need to do an EEG to confirm that that's what it is. So she let us, I had a friend go with me because my husband he was actually on his way to Indiana from Texas.
Mhm.
And so we drove over there and they immediately started getting her hooked up and they put I think there's probably like 40 some electrodes that they put on her head and then they wrap her up with gauze so she can't pull them out. And I just remember seeing this computer screen with all these lines, like, and it looked so chaotic. And I, of course, don't know what it means.
Mhm.
Um, and the neurologist had come in and was like, yep, she's definitely having some seizures. But even with her just sitting there being happy playing, like she was still having seizure activity. So we were in the hospital for probably, I think it was like 3, 4 days. That first, I don't know, it was all kind of a blur.
Yeah.
And
Infantile, spasms are super rare, right? I honestly just heard about them because there was someone else that just had a recording with where their child also experienced it.
oh, wow.
And so did you know anything about them before her diagnosis?
No, I had never heard of it before. I'd only ever heard of like grand mal seizures and absent seizures.
Mhm.
And so, no, I had never heard of it before. And it usually appears between like 3 and 9 months. And I can't say for sure that it was the vaccine that she got that made it happen. The doctors all say no, but who really knows? I mean, her neurologist says that it was probably already like there. Her brain was already ready to have the seizures and it could have like, yeah, yeah. He's like, I'm not going to say absolutely not. He goes, because how do we know? But, you know,
Yeah. Yeah. So what does that look like for you? How do you even begin processing what that means for her, what that means for your family? What questions do you ask? How do you start preparing for, life? Is life different, right? Like
right.
what are even the expectations?
So, we just kind of, they told us that there's like frontline medications that they use, which is steroids. And that was the first thing that they tried. Um, and she was on high dose of prednisone for 2 months. And
How is that uh what's the word, distributed? Like was it oral? Was it
yeah,
it was
orally. Yep. So she did oral prednisone for, yeah, just about 2 months. And her neurologist said because of her age, um, you need to almost treat this like COVID all over again. You are at home. You don't go anywhere unless you have to, because her immune system will be extremely compromised. And if she is to get really sick, she'll more than likely end up in the hospital.
Mhm.
So I called my boss and told him everything. And I was home for 3 months because, well, yeah, it was about 3 months because we tried the oral prednisone. And then there was a month where I had to give her shots because the prednisone wasn't working. So then we switched to this medication. It was ACT8. And that was a whirlwind because you have to get special approval, and most insurances do not cover it because it is so expensive. And I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do here? Like, they're telling me she needs this.
Mhm.
And the nurses got me in touch with like this, I don't, it's a program that the company that makes the medication has. That medication was $90,000 a vial. And we went through three vials in a month. And thankfully, it was all covered by this program. But at first, they're making it sound like if you're not approved, then you have to pay a portion of it. So then it was crazy, but they ended up covering the entire thing, thankfully.
When you spoke to your the company that you worked for, were you in the office at that time, and did they just let you work from home? Did you take leave?
So I work for just a chiropractor clinic. And I have an amazing boss, and there's just me and one other gal. And I talked to them both, and I just said, "This is what I have to do." And they were like, "We totally understand. She is your number one priority." And I used the PTO that I had, and then I was just at home. There wasn't really anything for me to do at home. Um, and so they were amazing.
Yeah, it's an overwhelming there's so many overwhelming decisions, right, that you have to make in those moments. And, obviously money isn't life, but like money is what makes us be able to survive, and bills add up, and everything around us. And so I couldn't imagine, it must have just been so overwhelming of having to make decisions based on what you're able to provide, right? Rather than it being giving her what she needs. It's like, what can you afford to do to be able to give her the best shot at being
Yeah,
okay?
right.
Just an overwhelming. I could only imagine, it's just like so overwhelming.
Well, and one of the worst parts was that, my husband, I want to say he had been with the company he was with at that time for like a year.
Mhm.
And so he wasn't at the like max capacity of PTO. So he was able to be home for probably the first 3 weeks of all this. And then he had to go back because it was like, yeah, somebody's got to be working.
Absolutely.
And they were very flexible with him. Like they tried to get him as close to home for work when they could. So they worked with him. If he had to come home, he had to come home. Maybe it was just for, the weekend or something or a couple days. But yeah. And during that time that she was on the steroids, they got to monitor her weight closely because it'll beef you up. And
Mhm.
this little 9-month-old baby had gained 8 pounds in 9 weeks. And at the time, I could see that she was really filling out and getting chunky. But when I go back and look at pictures now, I'm like, holy shit. Like, she just was this. She looked like she had rubber bands up her arm.
The Michelin Man.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's your daughter's name?
Reagan.
Reagan.
Yeah.
And so Reagan's 9 months old, right? Like at that time, and she had been through so much, right? 10 of, however many doctor's visits, failed medications, hospitalizations. How many changes did that happen like in that time frame after, right? Like she's 10 months old. Like what does that look like for the next couple years?
Yeah. So we gave the steroids for about 3 months, and
Mhm.
then we moved to a different medication. They gave each, well, those are the, let's see. I think those were the three medications that we tried at the start. And that was from February to July.
Mhm.
Um, and like the last medication that we tried, there was wild side effects to these. Like, um, we had to go get her eyes checked because it can cause permanent damage to her peripheral vision. And so I was like, well, how quick can that happen? Well, it's kind of hard to tell. Okay. And so it's like we did that. Well, it's all kind of a blur sometimes. Um, Trying to think what else. We did that for, I don't know if you can hear that.
No, I can't.
Okay. She's yelling through the house, running around. Um, yeah, that was probably July. I had finally asked her neurologist that we were seeing at the time, okay, we're not making any progress here. What should we do now? And she had mentioned the ketogenic diet, but they didn't do it there at the children's hospital. So we would have to go either University of Minnesota or Mayo Clinic in Rochester. And so they had put in a referral to U of M, but I hadn't heard back. And I was like, I'm just going to call Mayo because I'm sick of waiting around. Like, they keep telling me the longer this keeps happening, the more damage it can do.
Mhm.
And we had also done genetic testing, and they had found that she has a chromosome deletion. And I could talk more about that in a little bit. But nothing they found was causing the seizures. So, yeah, the next step was the keto diet. And when I called Mayo, they told me that it was going to be anywhere from probably 2 to 6 months, because essentially they had to state my case, present Reagan's case, and then it goes in front of a medical board. And the way I took it is they essentially see if it's interesting enough, or I, I don't know. That's how I took it, at least. They basically looked everything over to see if it was something they wanted to dig into.
Mhm.
And if it was, then they would call me back and schedule something. So I had everything faxed over. I told her everything, and um somebody called me back maybe a week or two later and said they want to see you guys in 2 weeks. So I was like, holy crap, okay. And it was probably a month before the other place had called. And they're busy. I'm sure both, I mean, they're world renowned hospitals. So yeah, we got set up with Mayo Clinic, and that's where we went from there.
The ketogenic diet is typically the last resort, right? I think
Yeah.
that's what you said. Um, do they tell you that in the beginning? Like this is kind of like the last thing we can try?
Yeah, they did. They said that they have had some success. Not, they gave me a percentage. I don't remember what it was, but with using the ketogenic diet for infantile spasms. But normally it's more used for like the grand mal and other kinds. But it has worked for some patients. They said that they could try other medications first. And at that time, I'm just sitting here looking at this. I mean, she's over a year old now. And I'm like, I just feel like we pump so much stuff into her body. I want to give her body a break. So let's try the diet. And, they sat there and explained it to me. Didn't sound that bad. So, yeah, I never want to do it again. I have a friend and her child has grand mal seizures, and they have been discussing doing the ketogenic diet, and he's 6 or 7. And I'm like, it was hard enough doing it on a 1-year-old. I cannot imagine doing it for a 6-year-old.
Can you give like a brief like overview of what it is?
So they go by a guideline. It's called Charlie's Foundation. There's actually a movie about it, and now I can't remember what it's called, but it's got Meryl Streep in it. And this kid, Charlie, had seizures, and they came up with this diet guideline, and it's high fat, high protein, very low carbs, and everything is measured out in grams. And there's a website that they go in and they create meals, and there was pretty much, I want to say like 10 meals that we rotated through over a year's time. So for breakfast, she would have eggs, heavy whipping cream, which we whipped ourselves. We would go buy like the organic. We had to buy a certain percentage. So she had, eggs, heavy whipping cream, a very small amount of fruit, and it was basically like a ton of butter. And every meal that she had, it was more butter than meat, or, more butter than eggs. And it was wild. Anytime we went anywhere, I had to pack a cooler. You cannot deviate. Like, you've got to be strict to give it a fair chance. And I think the longest she went without spasms at that time was like 2 weeks throughout the whole thing.
And how long was she on that diet for?
A year. And so we would give it like, they had ratios. So like the 2-to-1 ratio, she'd be on for like 3 months. And if we didn't see any improvement, that they'd go up, and so the higher ratio we went, the more fat. Because something about how your brain metabolizes the fat, it can affect the spasm or the seizures. It's a very confusing, complex thing, but we gave it a fair shot, and I think they wanted me to keep going. And I'm like, listen, we've done this for a year now, and we've only gone 2 weeks. I'm not doing this anymore.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's got to be hard, right? Like, I mean, food in general is like a hard play with children, just like getting them to eat something. And when obviously you bring in restrictions, there has to be a lot of frustration. So she's probably around 2 or 3 at that point when you round up
2.
2.
Yep.
And she's 4 now. Yeah.
No, she'll be 3 on May 11th.
2000 was she was I'm
22.
like doing math in my head. I'm like, you got pregnant in 2021, 25.
Yeah.
4.
Right.
It's so not that it was a year ago that you stopped the keto, and was there another attempt at something else next that she's working on?
Yep. So we did, from there we started, I feel like we started the valproic acid. That's when you started that Depakote. It's a commonly used seizure medication. But they told me, they said, we don't have a lot of success with this medication for infantile spasms. So don't be surprised if it doesn't work. And I'm like, well, okay, we give it a month or so and just kind of see where it goes.
Mhm.
And let's see, that was July. So I think by August we had started that. And we kept going up in doses. And each time we'd see 2 weeks with nothing, a week with nothing. And she was definitely having less, but not as much, because I have a 10-minute video from like when this first started, and she had over 100 spasms in a 10-minute span.
Wow, that's a lot.
And usually it was, she'd have like, I don't know, 20 to 30 in 10 seconds. And I could send you videos and show you sometime, but um yeah, that she was having a lot in a day. Probably they call them clusters when she has the spasms. She was probably having 10 plus clusters a day. And it was sad. And when she would have them, she just would like get really quiet. She would stop talking. She would have them, and then it was like she'd go right back to what she was doing.
What are your typical week look like then? Like between therapies, appointments, daily life? Like what are the needs outside of the medication? Is there therapy involved?
Yeah. So she is in PTOT and ST
What is
weekly
ST?
speech.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
I know what that is, but I've never heard it like abbreviated. So I was like, am I gonna learn something new?
Yeah. Yeah, she's in all three therapies. A school here, well, I think every state has it, but our state is called the Birth to Three program, and it's therapies through the school. So she does that weekly, and they come to our house. But now that she is turning 3, she'll age out of that, and then she'll transition to an IEP program through the school. So she'll be starting preschool in September.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because they have threes preschool, and they only go twice a week. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That's gonna be a big milestone for you and
yeah,
change. And
it will
you're
be.
back to work?
Yeah, yep. I work at the chiropractor 3 days a week. I work at my family friends. They own a dairy equipment shop.
Mhm.
And so I work there once a week. And then Tuesdays I have off because that's when all of our therapy is. And so, yeah, we just juggle on through.
And how do you get through that with essentially by yourself, right? Like you're a single parent because of your husband traveling for work and, how do
Yeah.
you manage to do this all on your own?
Uh, I don't even know some days. I honestly, I tell my therapist all the time, I feel like I just thrive in chaos. And I think that's my ADHD. I don't know how I get through it some days, but I got a great support system with my friends and my mother-in-law that is here. Um, I definitely would not have gotten through the last few years without any of them.
Mhm.
And they're always willing to jump in and help.
Has this impacted your marriage at all? Right? Like, have you like been able to work through this together? Has your husband had to work through this in a way as well?
Yeah, there was a time where it was kind of difficult because so I had mentioned earlier that she's got a genetic deletion.
Mhm.
And when we did that, they drew our blood also to make sure if something did come back, would tell them who it came from. And she did come back with it's like the 3q25.1 deletion. So the way that her genetic doctor explained it was your chromosomes are like a book, and there's a copy of each chromosome, or yeah, each gene. And so hers is how I want to explain it. One copy of her gene is it's there, but it's like the pages are blank.
Interesting.
And so and she got that from my husband. And at first they were saying, we don't know if it could cause, the seizures or what. There's only 11 people in the world that is on like medical records that have this chromosome deletion. So that is also extremely rare.
Wow.
And it's nothing crazy. It's the Med 12L.
Mm.
It can cause, not that it causes it, but like she could have um autism, ADHD, behavioral problems, delayed development, low muscle tone. But the infantile spasms can also cause developmental delay, all that stuff. So it's been kind of wild navigating all that. And well, is it the spasms that she's not, she's meeting her milestones, but it's very delayed.
Mhm.
And so, yeah,
A lot. There's a lot of
it's
factors
a lot.
in play.
Yeah.
How do you take care of yourself though with all of these different layers and layers and layers of life just kind of being thrown at you?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, ADHD. I just realized I didn't fully answer your last question. So when that genetic testing came back, that was really hard for my husband because it came from him. So he's like, she's having all these issues because of me. And so that was really kind of hard because he beat himself up. And it's like, yeah, but you didn't even know that there was anything wrong. Like they're they seem totally normal.
Yeah.
So that was difficult for a time, and then just everything compiling together financially, just and then dealing with all of her stuff. It was rough for a while, but we've been able to work through, and communication is a big key, especially when he's not here.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
So, but now, okay, going back to your other question. Yeah, I have a great therapist. I talk to her weekly.
Shout out
Uh,
therapy.
oh man, Tuesdays is for therapy. I've always seen therapists here and there, but when all this started with Reagan, I just was in a really low place, and I had called my doctor and said, yep, I'm gonna need you to start my meds back up because I don't know how I'm gonna make it through. Like I'm a very social person too. And so then being told you gotta treat it like COVID all over again.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's heavy.
Yeah. So I had just gone online, and I literally the way I picked her was her name is Ashley. And so I was like, oh, that's my middle name. Let's see how she works out. Because I mean, I've heard you guys talk about it on your podcast. Like
Mhm.
sometimes you have to date your therapist. Like if it doesn't work out, if it doesn't feel right, do not be afraid to say, no, let's try another one because she has gotten me through a lot,
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. What do you wish more people understood about having a child with complex medical needs?
I feel like, you know, every child is different. You could have 3 kids in the same room with the same exact diagnosis, and every single one is going to be different.
Mhm.
And that's one thing I've learned about infantile spasms too is that, Reagan has a very mild case of it. Like, yes, she's having the seizures, but when I go and I look at like the Facebook pages for like support groups and whatnot, Reagan is very lucky. Um, a lot of times the kids that end up having infantile spasms have lots of different issues. Um, and so just because she looks normal and seems normal doesn't mean that her life is normal. For one, and for two, I think the biggest thing, I've never had anybody like directly say stuff like this to me, but I've seen it online, like when I posted stuff in this support group page and whatever. Um, you know, I know 2 moms here locally that have kids with other significant health issues, and they are terminal. And these kids are only 6, 7 years old, and they're already declining in their lives. And that is absolutely awful. And one thing I wish that people would realize is that, yes, it could be much worse for Reagan. She could have a terminal illness. Things could be much, much worse. But just because it could be worse for, like, in general, doesn't mean that it's not our worst. Like, it's
Mhm.
the worst thing that we've experienced.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing that she has experienced. And so, people will comment to say, well, at least your
Yeah.
kid's not dying. And it's like, you're right, she's not. But that doesn't mean it's not awful to go through. And it
Absolutely.
doesn't mean that, I mean, she's not even 3 years old. And I think she's seen more doctors than I have. Nobody
Mhm.
likes to go to the doctor.
Yeah.
And so I just wish that people would be more sensitive to the fact that, like, life is hard and people deal with it in different ways,
Mhm.
you know?
Yeah. I couldn't agree more. I think that I always try to speak about just there's so much validity in everyone's truths, right? Like just
Okay.
because our lives it's a seesaw. Like you can
Yeah.
use that as a fuel to just say, "Oh, I can get through this. People have it worse." But like it doesn't discredit your experience and your lived experience. Like pain is so universal regardless of what that pain is. We're still trying to deal with it whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, right?
Yeah.
There's just so much validity to everyone's stories that we're not in a race.
Right.
Life is worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
Jordan, I'd love for you to give an update of, how Reagan is now and what Caesars look like in her life today.
Um, Actually, so in October, they had added a third dose to her, um, Depakote. So she was taking it twice a day. Then they said, let's add a noon dose. And so that was on a Friday. And by Monday, I was like, you know what? I don't think she had any spasms yesterday. So then I said to my friend who watched her at the time, I don't think she had any spasms. So pay close attention, see if she has any today. And it just kept happening, kept happening. And we are now at, I think, 182 days of no seizures
Wow.
for the first time since she was diagnosed.
Wow. That's
So,
incredible. I mean, what a scary and, like, great feeling too, right?
mm,
Because the longer the days, the more then you have to lose, but, I mean, 182 days of not experiencing those things, that's really incredible.
it's wild because I sit here and I think back of, like, just everything. And it was so hard. And I don't know, I can't imagine, like, how she felt. And she can't tell me.
She's a baby.
Like, yeah, when this all started, she was just starting to crawl. And, like, that all stopped.
Mhm.
Um, and because she'd gained so much weight with the steroids, like, she couldn't do anything. And so, it was 18 months before, well, 19 months before she started walking. And, um, we're hearing new words every day, I feel like. Um, and we're making great progress. But, they say not to compare, and I really try not to. But it's like, oh, that kid's saying full sentences, like talking full conversations, and it's hard not to compare sometimes.
Mhm.
And I think back and I look at everything that happened over the last few years, and it's crazy. And I'm so grateful that we are where we are today. And I hope that it continues. We go to Mayo next month, for a follow-up EEG to confirm that she's not having seizure activity that we're not seeing.
Mhm.
So, yes, fingers crossed, prayers that.
I'd love for you to keep me updated if
Yeah,
possible.
yeah,
I would love to know. How can people support you? How can like, not you specifically, just how
yeah.
can people support parents and families who are navigating similar similar medical challenges?
Um, I think just being there for them. And, um, you know, my friends often, they would go to the appointments with me, especially like at first, because just having that second set of ears to hear what the doctors are saying, because there were many times where we'd go into an appointment and it was like, okay, wait, what did she tell me? What did they say? Like, you just kind of blank out and you hear one thing and that's like what you end up sticking with. And then, so offer to go with your friends or, whoever to the appointments. Just anything, just be there to listen to them. I couldn't have made it through without my friends and family and, um, yeah. So biggest thing with infantile spasms too is because it can be hard to diagnose. And from what I've seen on the support pages, a lot of doctors will push it off on it's just the startle reflex.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because it's very common between 3 and 9 months. And for Reagan, like at 9 months, they still have the startle reflex, obviously, but it's not as much as they would at 3 months old.
Mm-hmm.
And so, just taking videos, if you're not sure if that's what your child is doing, take a video. And yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing I can
Keep
say.
advocating.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And if someone listening wants to reach out to you, is there a way that someone, either an email, social media, is there a way that someone could get in touch?
Yeah. I have Instagram. I'll have to look and see what my thing is because I don't even know. But Instagram or my Gmail, it's jordanpashon@gmail.com. I definitely would love to talk to anybody. If they ever have any questions. I mean, I've been in contact with lots of people over the years and asked them questions. And I was talking to a mom from the UK for a while because of where like there's this mom's son and Reagan's story just seemed very similar.
Mm.
And yeah, I mean, you just got to reach out and ask questions. And yeah, my Instagram handle is Jordan Pashon 2012.
I will be in the description as well. So one final question we wrap up here is, if you could tell your younger self anything, what would it be?
Honestly, just advocate for yourself. And if something doesn't seem right, say something or, ask for help. Listen to your gut and just never let that go. If your gut is telling you that something is wrong or something doesn't feel right, don't let that go. Be that annoying person that makes a million phone calls. Like you can never stop advocating. You can never stop protecting for yourself or for a child,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Well, thank you, Jordan, so much for sharing your journey with us. Your strength, your intuition, and your determination to fight for your daughter's health are nothing short of inspiring. Parenting a medically complex child is a road that many don't understand, but your honesty and openness will help so many parents feel less alone. To anyone listening, never stop being your child's number one advocate. Your voice matters, your instincts matter, and your fight matters. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on For The Hayters. Thanks for listening to For The Hayters. Don't forget to connect with us on socials, follow, like, and share to help more people find this community. And remember, they're not alone. And if you haven't yet, join our Facebook group. We'd love to have you there. The more we grow, the more lives we can impact.
What's your name and share your story? We'll be waiting.